Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and during the 2016 Brexit referendum, there was an awful lot of money, too much in fact, from a legal perspective, spent on adverts from various groups without any admission on their part that they were funding them. In this video, I'd like to discuss the extent to which that is now happening in the general election. But first, if you'd like to see more of my videos, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the constituency I live in is Labour held and has been since it was created in its current form, but it is also a Leave area, even though Brexit has threatened the key industry within the town. And well, if that industry goes, then the local economy is gone. And it seems there is still, however, despite that, a lot of support for leaving the EU still. As such, the Conservatives are targeting this seat very hard. As a little illustration, I've received 2 pieces of literature through my letterbox from the Labour Party. Both of them explain what Labour's policies are on a number of issues that are considered key for the local area, as well as the work that our current Labour MP has been doing as an MP. But to counter those 2 pieces of Labour literature, I've received 6 different ones from the Conservatives. Almost none of them actually discuss Conservative policies, because in this local area, that's not likely to get you many votes. They're essentially a collection of lies about Labour's policies and intentions. With several of them, if you weren't politically aware, you wouldn't even know that they'd been produced by the Conservative Party, but for the small print that says who published it and on whose behalf. But how many people really read the small print? But it is there, and that's the thing. In small print it may be, but campaigning literature has to contain the name and address of whoever produced it and whoever commissioned it by law. The same does not seem to be the case online. This is why social media is flooded with groups that claim and even appear to be grassroots movements, but are in actual fact fully paid for by the Conservative Party. When you see who pays for various Facebook ads, it just has the name of the person fronting it, such as, for example, Richard Patrick Tracy in the case of a community group called Parents' Choice. What isn't mentioned is that Richard Tracy is, or was rather, a Conservative MP and former minister. This particular page has £10,000 spent on ads, and you'd never know it was on behalf of the Conservative Party unless you dug deep. And when I say you have to dig deep, I don't mean you look for the small print on the Facebook page. It doesn't exist. This is why it has taken investigative journalists time and effort to uncover something of the scale of this. And this is why the opposition parties, who outnumbered Boris Johnson just before Parliament was dissolved, should have done something to deal with the issue of propaganda on social media. Only the Conservatives are abusing it in this way, and well, in terms of the parliamentary parties. And so it is not in the interest of any of the other major parties' interest that it be allowed to carry on in this general election. And yet it has. They did nothing to stop it. If Boris Johnson gets his majority, there's good reason to hope that he won't. But if he does, then those other party leaders will need to face up to the fact that they could have stopped it and didn't, and will not be in a position to stop it in the future. There are lots of groups dedicated to spreading misinformation about various other parties. Labour mostly, and members of those parties, mostly Jeremy Corbyn, and they all appear to be groups set up politically to get a message out there. They just appear to be from ordinary chaps in the community who just want to get a message out. And some groups will be just that. They actually exist, but many of them, certainly the ones with the big spends, are all carefully coordinated by the Conservative Party campaign team. And I'll remind people what I discussed a little while ago. Boris Johnson specifically hired to head up his campaign team 2 gentlemen who have form on this. They've done this around the world, present misinformation campaigns on social media where laws in lots of countries are a bit lax on this. Now, I could say that they're also spreading misinformation about the Conservatives themselves, but that tends to be in lying about so-called fact-checking. So we know that the Conservatives altered their own Twitter account to make it appear to be an independent fact-checking service during the first TV debate between Johnson and Corbyn. Now, a common trick is to make various claims about Labour policies from their manifesto, when there are no such policies. But it doesn't matter that their claims are easily refuted. They know that for every person that actually goes, oh, I ought to read this for myself in the manifesto, and then go, oh, it's not in there at all, they're lying. Many more will just take it as fact. The capacity that so many people have for simply accepting what people say without hesitation is truly horrifying. And the Conservatives sort of know this. They know that there are a lot of people that will just believe what they say because they want to. But they also know there's a lot of people who will be sceptical. But they will believe what an ordinary man or woman on the street will say. So they set up the groups that just purport to come from this person who just wants to get that message out, like I say. And it's almost like these people think to themselves that the claim must be true because it would be so easy to refute if it weren't. After all, they'd think, all I have to do is go and read the Labour manifesto and see for myself. But of course they don't read it, and so buy the lie. And it's the unaccountability of social media that is really the problem here. If a politician tells a lie in more traditional forms of campaigning, well, it can be linked directly back to them. With online campaigning, it is much more time consuming and difficult to do this. Remember how long it took for official investigations to begin into the use of dark money in the referendum campaign? That was because it wasn't at all apparent. We still wouldn't know about it were it not for the work of investigative journalists who smelled a rat. Our law enforcement agencies didn't come across this evidence. They're simply not equipped to identify these problems. They have to be shown the evidence by those who are before they investigate. And so the same will happen here. Forewarned, journalists have again been uprooting some of these groups quite quickly because they know it must be going on. But most will lie undetected for some time. In another year or so, there'll be another expose on the levels of misinformation that was spread by the Conservatives, again, long after they may already have reaped the benefits of this poor conduct. And another problem with these groups, beyond the deliberate attempts to subvert our democracy, is that it sucks people into echo chambers much more easily. Echo chambers have always existed, of course. People, when they're going to discuss politics, will want to discuss with those who agree with them. A lot of people, their ego can't take people disagreeing with them. It's only ever a minority who are willing to actually discuss those with opposing views. But at least you always know that you're making a conscious decision to only talk to people with the same view as you. At least in the back of your mind, it's just there, that knowledge. But when you see so many groups on social media, all apparently run by people from very different backgrounds. Some of them are claiming to be run by, people who are very wealthy capitalists, but some claiming to be just the ordinary working person. And you can be forgiven for looking at all of these different people from different walks of life, and they're all saying the same thing. That you are exploring views from a wide range of backgrounds, all parts of the political spectrum. And would you believe it? They're all saying the same thing. So political views aside, you then start to see things that must be a universal truth because everyone seems to think this. But they don't. You're being targeted by these groups because of a deliberate campaign to do so. And the way social media in general is set up is to target you with things that they think you'll be interested in. So it all feeds in. And so, you start to believe that actually it's Labour and not the Conservatives that are going to lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom. That Jeremy Corbyn wants to disband the armed forces, even though he has signed up to the Covenant and Boris Johnson has not. That it's Corbyn who's influenced by the Russians, even though it's Boris Johnson who is suppressing a report into Russian interference in our polling. And that's dangerous because what it means is that people then can't tell the difference between opinion and fact. And although a lot of people view their opinions as fact, you can still tell the difference if you really think about it. In this situation, it's very, very difficult. And because these are matters of the utmost importance, people believe very strongly in them. And they'll believe that someone who takes account of you must be lying and is a threat to their way of life, the way of life for their family, for their country. And so you end up with a divide in society. One part of society sees another part of society as the enemy. And it was Margaret Thatcher that said on numerous occasions, there is no such thing as society. And to try and make that true, she began to unpick society. And I think now what we're seeing is Boris Johnson is taking this further. And in order to obliterate society, he's just setting it against itself. He is dividing it. He is having society destroy itself by providing this sort of misinformation. So not only can these tactics lead to Boris Johnson potentially getting a majority on the back of lies, it can have a devastating effect on our society, which is already fracturing due to Brexit. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, then please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.